Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Last video I started and said that my hair is blonde because of the ocean, and I didn't mean it then. I mean it a little bit more now. I feel very much not myself with my hair being so faded, but you know, it's what I have to work with right now. I am going to be back in London next week, and I will be back to my rainbow self. Anyway, it's 2024 now. I think it's been 2024 for the past few videos, but I have not been on top of when I'm uploading what. And I missed the new year because I don't know what's going on and I don't know what day it is, but it's 2024, so happy new year. I hope that the year is off to a start. I hope that everyone's enjoying the holiday season and just taking time to look after themselves. A few weeks ago, I asked you all to email me a first date horror story of yours, and you did not disappoint. My inbox is full of first date horror stories. Like, so many. I have enough to make so many of these videos. So if you want a part 2 of this, please let me know because I would love to make another one. So today I thought that I would sit down and we would read through some of your bad first dates and talk about some of these experiences. I've really been enjoying doing these, like, emailing things instead of just going on Reddit and stuff because I think it's more personal and I have a lot of fun, like, learning more about you. So I want to do another one of these, and so the next one I wanted to do was talking about your, like, sex education experience at school. I want to know what sort of shit they did and didn't teach you. Like, what purity culture stories do you have from school? What, like, terrible sex stuff did you learn at school? Or even some, like, good stories. I want to know your sex education stories from school because I think that that would make an interesting video and it's something that I really want to talk about. So please send that to me at dearkiwi@gmail.com. That is Kiwi with a Q, and I look forward to reading all of that and doing that next time. So great. Before I do get into these first date nightmares, I would like to say a massive thank you to today's patron of the day, Chris. I appreciate you and your support so much, and I hope that you enjoy this video. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. It starts at as little as £1 a month, and it means a lot, and I appreciate it. So yeah, thank you. Let's get into the nightmares. I went on a date at the beginning of 2023 with this guy who I knew from elementary school, and we had reconnected over social media and had been talking for some time. While nothing appeared to be a red flag in the initial moments, things got so weird after the first date. After eating dinner with him, we went into the gym he frequents, where he works out, while I was just standing there. Why would anyone think taking their date to the gym is a good idea? Especially right after dinner. Like, did he go to dinner in his gym clothes? Or is he at the gym in his dinner clothes? Or did he bring, like, a duffel bag to dinner with you? Like, that's so funny. Who thinks that's a good idea? That's the most arrogant thing ever, being like, hey, you know what we should do after dinner? You should come and watch me work out. I think that's a great idea. Anyway, at this point, I was feeling extremely awkward. Yeah, fair enough. He goes to the workout punching bags and proceeds to use it, but maybe a little too much. I mean, he went extremely aggressive on it to the point his knuckles bled, and the entire time I'm just standing there awkwardly. Imagine not only taking your date to the gym, but then taking your date to the gym and punching things so hard your knuckles bleed. Nothing says green flag quite like being so violent your knuckles bleed. Okay, this is meant to be impressive? How? This is when toxic masculinity, like, really takes hold of people. Like, it makes these people think that, yeah, women like violent men. That's masculine. It actually gets worse. Once we got into the parking lot, he proceeds to tell me that because he takes performance enhancements, aka genuine steroids, that he cannot control himself intimately. I had no words to tell him except to take me home. On the way of him driving me back to my place, he proceeds to tell me about all of the manipulation books he has read, which made everything more awkward. I didn't even say goodbye to him that night or text him the next day. Yeah, that's valid. Get out of that car and run as fast and as far as you can. My dear God. After this, for multiple nights, he would call me and tell me photos of me posted to social media aroused him and how bad he wanted to sleep with me, like a dog on a bone. Despite me telling him early on in our conversations that I was not interested in intimacy, he blocked me shortly after because I didn't entertain him since the date. We're starting off really strong because holy shit. How did that keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse? Like I said, imagine taking a date to the gym. Unless you're both like gym people and that's something you have in common and discussed prior that you want to go to the gym together, which is an odd first date, but you do you. But bringing someone to the gym to watch you work out and on top of that watch you be violent until your knuckles bleed and then brag about being on steroids as though that's something that's going to impress you, followed by saying he can't control himself in the bedroom because of these steroids after violently punching things until his knuckle bled. Like, I'm just laying out the facts here, and I'm so gobsmacked that someone would do and say that, and then follow it up by telling you about manipulation books they've read. Like, how did he... You know, at least this was the first date, you know? At least you weren't going out with him, like, for, like, a month. At least you hadn't invested time in him before he revealed this part of himself. He at least showed you his true colors straight up, and it meant you could get out and never speak to him ever again, because I'm just, like, gobsmacked. I'm baffled that someone can be like that at all, let alone on a first date. The arrogance you have to have is unreal. It's unreal. And then he's going to turn around and be like, why don't women like me? Unreal. I can't believe people like that exist. I'm so sorry you ended up on that date. I'm so sorry to any person who ends up on any date with him, because holy hell. That is actually a nightmare. All right. Let's see what else is going on in these stories, shall we? Hi Kiwi, this is my worst first date. For context, I'm a cis hetero man from the UK who is studying abroad in the US in the state of Utah. It was about 6 months since my major breakup and thought I should get back out dating as I felt ready, but not for anything too serious. On my profile, I said I was looking for something more casual, and whenever me and someone matched, I always was clear I was not looking for something serious. Anyway, me and this girl got matched, and we were texting pretty often and finally went out for a date, just for some food, and got to know a bit more about each other. Suddenly, she brought up marriage and went on what felt like a 15-minute speech about what kind of wedding and what kind of future she wants, and even kids. That's wild to bring up on a first date. For 15 minutes, too. On a date with someone that you've just met who has expressed wanting something casual. That's wild. I was a bit uncomfortable about this talk and tried to change the subject, but she kept returning to the topic. I even told her I was uncomfortable with this discussion, but she kept going for the rest of the date. Oh my god, that sounds exhausting. I am so sorry. We said goodbye on our date and I immediately blocked her on the dating site. What made it worse is I was telling this to my friend and she responds with, "So you're Bridgeton boy." I was so confused and she explained that she was my date's roommate and revealed that my date was watching Bridgeton, as it had just come out at the time, and finding out I was English and thought I was just playing hard to get and she can convince me to get married to her. My friend told me that she was absolutely devastated that I blocked her, and I will not lie, I felt awful and thought I did something wrong, and it really put me off with dating. As of now, I've thankfully moved on from that and have had better dates and relationships and want to be a reminder to respect people's boundaries. That's so absurd. The fact that this girl found out you were British and was like, you know what I know about British people? The show Bridgeton. So, like, surely this British man wants to marry me. Surely. I'm going out with a British man, so obviously his intention is marriage and children, and it is very appropriate for me to bring that up on the first date and to discuss nothing but it. The fact he said he wants something casual was just playing hard to get. He is a British man. Obviously he wants to wed me. How do you get there? In what world is that an appropriate thing to do? Especially if someone says, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation, and then you carry on because you're like, they're playing hard to get. No. Just respect what people say. That's the thing, is that, like, when people say stuff and they don't mean it, if they're like, I don't want to talk about this, and or like, leave me alone or whatever, and they expect you to do the opposite of that, the safest thing to do is to just do what they're telling you, and if that upsets them, that's on them for their bad communication skills. You are respecting boundaries, and if they don't want you to respect their boundaries, that's something they need to work on, you know? Like, don't push people's boundaries. If they tell you to stop talking about something, stop talking about it. If someone says you're making them uncomfortable, stop doing the thing that's making them uncomfortable. It's like basic human decency. It's just, don't make people uncomfortable. It's as simple as that, really. And I can't believe this, like, friend... Firstly, absolutely wild that it was your friend's roommate. The chances, the fact it was your friend's roommate, oh my god. And the fact that, like, she made you feel guilty about it, being like, yeah, you devastated her by blocking her. Maybe she should have been respectful. Maybe you shouldn't feel bad for her because she crossed boundaries and was being weird and decided she wanted to marry this man because he was British on their first date because of a TV show. Wild. People are strange. People are strange. In 2016, I rented my first apartment when I was 19 years old after spending 2 years in foster care. My family raised me very isolated and conservative, so I was totally not prepared for what the dating game is when I dove deep into it. Many of the friends I met when studying in this new place used Tinder and soon pushed me to download it and just swipe a little. Between the usual toxic masculinity bros and the way too old guys, I matched with one dude. Let's call him Andrew. He was in his early 20s and he looked like a damn model. Like, his page had legit model photo shoots and some behind-the-scenes pictures of him sitting in a photo shoot area on some boxes posing. And while I was rather skinny, I had no idea how I got to pull such a person. We texted for a while and he sent me many pictures, also regular selfies, that ultimately convinced me and all of my friends that Andrew was real. And he was also a model for a small, affordable clothing brand. We even found pictures of him online when Googling his name and the brand. Don't know if I like where this is going. After maybe 3 weeks of texting Andrew, he invited me to grab a coffee and called it our first official date. If you wonder why we never tried phone calling before, well, he was always so busy and stuff, and also I was shy as fuck. Like, I was a girl texting a male model. The day our date came, and after countless tears about what to wear and what makeup to put on, I made my way to the cafe we wanted to meet at. He texted me that he was there, when I was only a few minutes away. I walked around the corner and saw 3 tables. One had a woman, maybe in her 40s, in a colourful dress. One table was empty, and at the last table sat a beef jerky of a man. Old sunken skin in his face, but with a bloated, broad-shouldered body. I grabbed my phone to text Andrew. I was wondering anxiously. Maybe he was sitting inside. Before I could type out a full sentence, the woman stood up and put her hand on my arm and asked, "Are you my name?" After I was frozen in shock for what felt like an eternity, she broke down and told me the whole story. Andrew was real, and so was his job. The woman was Andrew's mother, who looked for experiences with other women, and she admitted to using her son's photos without his knowledge and permission. I went home that day, and the last thing me and my friends did was contact the real Andrew via Instagram, send him all of the proof we had, a friend of mine did, and then we blocked him. That's not the plot twist I expected. Usually, like, I was expecting catfishing, obviously, based on the way the story was told, based on all the little, like, we tried our best, he seemed legit, but, like, he was a model, so it was, like, suspicious, but I did not expect his mother? His mother was pretending to be him on dating apps, so she could have experiences with women, specifically younger women, because obviously she's going for girls her son's age, using her son's profile, but also obviously a lot of the people that are going to match there are going to be hetero women. So young hetero women, she's trying... Ma'am, that's so fucked up. I cannot imagine what this son went through when he found this out. Like, I can't imagine what would go through my mind, how I would feel if I found out that one of my parents was using my identity to hook up with people. Like, that's, like, next level fucked up. There's so many layers to that. So many layers to that. Because it's like, you're, like, low-key sexualizing your own son. Because you're, like, acknowledging he's attractive and whatever, which is, like, fine. But then, like, using his face and his voice and his identity to have, like, romantic or sexual conversations with people. Like, do you not feel, like, disgusting doing that? Like, do you not feel so gross doing that? Because if I found out one of my parents were doing that, I would feel so gross. I don't think I could ever, like, speak to them again. Like, obviously she's struggling with something. She's obviously going through an identity crisis. She's obviously struggling with her sexuality, and I feel for her on that. However, this is probably, arguably, one of the absolute worst ways to go about dealing with it. Because what the fuck? Oh, poor Andrew finding that out would tear his life apart. Jesus. Surely that's not effective either. Like I said, most of these girls are going to be like, het women going out with this male model and showing up to find his mother. That, like, did that have, there's no way that ever worked. That can't have ever worked. I'm baffled by that. That's actually baffled me. That's absurd. Oh my god. Hello, this is a harrowing tale of a first date that I went on a while ago. So a little backstory, I am polyamorous and live with my long-term partner. I want to say less than a year ago, I was going on dates and such, meeting boys, girls, and preferably those who are neither. Anyway, I meet this guy, and we start talking, and he seems pretty cool, so I want to meet him. He tells me he doesn't have a car. Fine. I'll go pick him up. He lived 30 minutes away, maybe more. It's a pretty decent drive to pick someone up. I applaud you for being willing to do that, because I probably wouldn't be. I bring him back to my apartment. Bad idea. And when we get there, he asks if he can have something to drink. So I offer him one of my last A&W root beers, my favorite soda, and he drank it. A little while later, he got up, went to my fridge, and without saying a word, he grabbed my last root beer from the fridge and drank it in 10 fucking seconds. It was gone before I could even process what was happening. The feeling I felt witnessing this was akin to watching a titan pick up and devour a person on AOT. It was harrowing. I can't imagine going into someone's house, especially a stranger, and then going into their fridge and helping myself to a drink, especially the last one. If someone came to my house and they asked me for a drink and it's the last one, I would probably just give it to them and be like, yeah, that's fine, I'll buy another one later, I don't need it right now, like, that's fine. And I would give it to them. But someone going and taking that? No. Like, if you're a good friend of mine, fine, I don't really care. But a stranger on a first date, you're gonna go into my fridge and help yourself to my last drink? What the fuck, man? What the fuck? And then, after that, he then proceeded to take his shoes off, put his absolutely disgusting feet all over my couch, fall asleep, and stay asleep until I had to wake him up and then drive him all the way home, which took like 10 minutes just to get him to wake up enough to put his shoes on, and then he slept the entire way back. When he got out of the car, he was like, sorry I slept the whole time, hopefully we can do this again. I blocked him as soon as he closed the door. What the fuck? What? Why? What? Why would you do that? You go on a first date, and your first date, what you think is the absolute best thing to do on a first date is go to someone's house. No, sorry. Make them pick you up from your house, and then go to their house, drink their drinks without asking, and then sleep on their couch the whole time? Just fall asleep on the couch the whole time, and then make them drive you home and fall asleep that whole time too, and then you think that you're gonna get a second date. Bro, if you are tired and you need to sleep, just say that. Cancel the date. Tell them, hey, I actually am not feeling too great today. I didn't get any sleep last night, so I don't think I'm gonna be very good company. Do you want to try again another time? Like, I would understand. If you say that to me, I'll be like, yeah, that's totally fair. I understand. I suck at sleeping sometimes myself too. Another time. If you show up at my house and just sleep the whole time, ooh. What? These people have never interacted with other people ever in their lives. What? How do you even do this? How is this something you are even capable of doing? I cannot imagine being that comfortable in a stranger's house. Like, only a man could do that. Imagine, like, there is nothing worse than the idea of going into a, like, man's house that I've never met before and then just falling asleep. Like, that like, I just wouldn't feel safe. Like, it's not something I would be able to do. That, obviously, on top of the fact that it's incredibly rude. Oh my god. I'm sorry I slept the whole time. We should do this again sometime. What? Really? Did you really think You really think you were going to score a second date there, bro? You really think... Hi, Kiwi. I'm MLM, just for context. So this was about 5 years ago. I'd just finished university and was out of a long-term relationship. I was on Tinder and started talking to this one guy. He seemed nice, and so we exchanged Snapchat usernames and were just talking about a date. We decided on a day, and I said, oh, I'm working in the city centre the morning of that day, and he said, that's fine, we can meet after your shift. I purposefully didn't eat during the day so I would be ready for the date and be able to have food and not just be picking and wasting half of a meal. We met and he seemed really nice. About my height and looked just like his pictures, so it was all going well for my standards. I turned to him and asked, so where do you want to go for food? He turned around and said to me, oh, I've already eaten. Before a date. Where we said we'd be eating, because I would have just finished work. No bother, I thought. Oh well, I'll just need to pick something up. We went to Wetherspoons as it was somewhere I could get a quick, cheap meal and he could have a drink or something while I ate. Dear reader, he did not have a drink. He continued to sit there with nothing while I ate my meal and barely spoke to me. I was wondering where the guy I'd spoken to had disappeared off to. A bit later, I had finished my meal and we went for a walk before going to another bar. The whole walk there, he was so quiet and did not react to any of the jokes I was making and gave one-word answers to the conversation topics I'd picked. I was dying. We went to a bar and the music was blasting so loud that I could barely hear what he was saying. Didn't matter, as he barely spoke to me anyway. We had a bit of a dance and I decided I'd had enough, so I said I'm gonna head off. He said he'd walk me to the bus stop. What a gentleman. We got to the bus stop and basically agreed that it didn't go well and we didn't want to see each other again. I bid him farewell and we both go our own ways home. That's the end of it, right? Oh no. I get back home and about an hour later, I get a Snapchat notification from him. Weird, I think. The man had sent me a dick pic. We just said we didn't want to see each other again. Why are you sending me an unsolicited dick pic? I hit block and thankfully never spoken to him again. That's so wild. It's so annoying when that happens with dates, right? Like, that's happened to me a few times where I'm, like, talking to someone a lot and we have a lot in common and we talk a lot and we can make great conversation. And then you meet in person and they just don't know how to actually hold the conversation. And you try so hard. You, like, put things forwards and they reply with, like, a couple words. And you're there, like, what do I do? How do I do this? And the only solution really I will come up with sometimes is like, I have to talk about myself a bit because they're answering my questions with like one-word answers or like they're letting the conversation die off. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't sit in silence because silence makes me anxious and I just like, I hate being in silence with people. I like can't stand the awkwardness. Like I have to have noise. So then I start talking and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm talking about myself too much. So I try to involve them in the conversation and then they barely give anything or they give a little bit and then when I try to keep going and then it falls off and I'm like losing my mind. But oftentimes when that happens, they don't seem to see it as an issue and want to keep going and I'm like, maybe they were just nervous this time. Maybe it was just, you know, maybe they were just anxious and next time it'll be better. And I've gone out with people like several times where this has been the vibe the whole time. Ultimately, it doesn't ever work out. And obviously in this situation, at least you both acknowledged that it wasn't working. But I'm so sorry you had that whole experience of like trying so hard to communicate with this person and them giving nothing. Especially after obviously you'd been able to have conversations leading up to this. And then not ordering food or a drink or anything and like eating before your date too. Like maybe it was the first date they've ever been on. Maybe they've never been on a date before. They were nervous. They didn't know what you were going to do. So they ate food because they were hungry and they didn't really know what to expect. But then not ordering something when you said they should order a drink. And then continuing to not talk after all of your efforts. And then agreeing it wasn't working. And then sending an unsolicited dick pic at the end. Why? What did he think was going to come of that? I don't understand. I don't understand unsolicited dick pics at the best of times. I don't understand them ever. It's never a good idea. It's always harassment. It's never a good thing to do. But in this context, it makes no sense at all. It like makes no sense. At least other times I know they're doing it for like a power thing or because they think that you'll like it, which I don't think they actually think that, but they tell themselves they think it's something you want. But in this situation, like, he straight up had also said he didn't want to pursue this. So it doesn't make any sense. I'm glad you blocked him and never had to speak to him ever again, because what the fuck? That's so bizarre. That's so weird. This happened to be my first date ever in my life. I met this guy on Hinge, and after a week of talking, he took me on a date. While in the car, he asked if anyone knew if I was on this date. I said, yes, my best friend. He asked why, and I laughed and said, you know, in case I get murdered. And he laughed and then went silent. After driving a bit more, we passed by this field, and he said, that'd be a good place to jump a body. And I was like, ha! He ghosted me after the date, but I was not upset because it was very off-putting. LMAO. Oh my god. That is a pretty bad first ever date. Good lord. Why did he feel the need to ask that? Being like, does anyone know you're here? Why did you tell them? That question alone is like a red flag. I mean, like, you know, in case I get murdered, haha. Like, that's like a reasonable response, actually. That is something that people know. You know, you tell people when you're going on dates. They know that, and they know it's because of that reason. So if you say it and then they go silent and then make a joke about it, yeah, incredibly bad vibes. I'm glad he ghosted you. I'm glad you never had to deal with him ever again, because yikes, that's genuinely, actually, I would have been quite terrified, to be honest. I would have probably tried to get out of the car. I would have opened the door and, like, rolled out of the car then and there. Sorry, where am I? In the middle of nowhere? Doesn't matter. I don't want to be in that car anymore. Not for me. Oh my god. I hope that any further dates were a little bit better and less horrifying and off-putting, because big yikes on that one. Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna do one more. I'm a biromantic asexual woman. I state that very clearly on my dating app page, but for some reason, men seem to skip over the bio and go straight into the chatting. I always make sure to remind them that I'm ace, which sometimes turns guys off, but on special occasions, it doesn't matter. This was one of those occasions. Or so I thought. I start messaging this guy on Bumble one day. I'll call him Mark. Mark and I were really hitting it off. He and I were both into photography and animals, and he actually showed me the macro photos he had done of bugs, which, of course, made me fall in love instantly. Haha, just kidding. Kinda. Anyways, I really liked him, and I asked if he'd want to meet up sometime for a date. He said yes, and that we should meet up near his place at a park. I said that sounded great, and we agreed on a date. Before we met, I reminded him that I wasn't looking for a hookup and that I was asexual. He left me on red for a couple days, but then finally texted me saying he understood and was chill. So I was like, heck yeah. I show up to the park and I find a spot to chill while I wait for him. He comes probably 20 minutes after I arrive and says hello. I notice he's got this girl with him. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And I'm like, hey, who's this? Mark looks me dead in the eye and goes, this is my girlfriend, Viv. I was obviously like, what the hell? I thought you were single. He explained to me he was on Bumble looking for a unicorn, aka a bi woman to have a threesome with. I pointed out how this was neither on his account nor had he mentioned it to me. He said, it's easier if you don't say anything because a lot of chicks are put off by that. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm asexual. He said, no joke. I know you think you're asexual, but that's why Viv and I wanted you, because we know you'd change your mind. I was literally shocked. I was speechless. He tried to touch me, and I ended up pushing him away and running to my car. He luckily didn't fight or chase me, but needless to say, I deleted Bumble that night. Anyways, the story deserves a happy ending, so about a year later, I met my current partner, who is a loving, wonderful person who respects my asexuality and is literally the most amazing human being ever, and we are celebrating a year soon. So the moral is, bring mace to your dates. Oh my god. Listen, I understand when couples want to use Bumble to find a third. Like, I get it. Is it annoying? Yes. But I do get it because I understand that it can be hard to find people for that. And there are some people on there also looking for being a third to someone. So I get it. But it is so annoying when they don't state that on their profile and then you match with them and then they're like, by the way, this is my intention. I'm like, you're wasting my time. Put it on your profile. Because being like, we don't tell people because usually people are put off by it. I'm like, yeah, okay, so what do you expect happens when they show up? They're still put off by it. And if they go through with anything, if they were going to be previously put off by it, it's probably because they feel pressured into it, which isn't great. You know, you should tell people these things up front. You should because if they're going to be put off by it online, they're going to be put off by it in person. Being like, I know you're asexual, but like, you don't actually know that. Me and my girlfriend here, we can actually change your mind. Bro, get off your high horse. Get your head out of your ass and just leave people alone, alright? respect people's identities, respect people's boundaries, and like be honest. And don't try to manipulate people, and don't try to touch people when they tell you they aren't interested. Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm glad that you're doing well now and that you have found someone who you love and who loves you and have a wonderful relationship with. I'm very, very happy for you. I am going to leave these stories here, I think, because, my god, they have in fact lived up to the title of Nightmare First Dates. They have been nightmares, for sure. Good lord. Okay, if anyone else has any nightmare first date stories, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Everyone share. Let's have a conversation about some nightmare bad first dates, because it's fun to talk about. Maybe I'll do another one of these in the future. Let me know if you want one. But don't forget to email your, like, sex education stories to dearkiwi@gmail.com for the next one of these that I do. Again, that's dearkiwi with a Q @gmail.com, because I am so intrigued and interested to learn more about your sex education from school and the likes. So, yeah. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. I appreciate you so much. And a huge, huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. Harry, Bobby, Josh, Mandy, Sparrow, Ikazel, Jessica, Eldo, Danielle, Raven, Elias, Boston, Chris, Amelia, and Samuel. I love and appreciate you so, so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, as well as podcasts a week early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes